A little bit more theory before we start rolling up our sleeve and running containers, I mean pods. I'm going to talk about the Kubernetes network model because this is maybe one of the most confusing things when you come from a Docker background, because both network models are very different, unfortunately. So the short version is that the whole cluster, so all the nodes, all the pods, are one giant big flat IP network. That's it. And that's different from the Docker approach, where containers are, you can put them on separate networks, a little bit like VLANs that are strongly isolated from each other. So if we dive into details, the Kubernetes network spec says all the nodes must be able to reach each other, all the pods must be able to reach each other, and all the pods and nodes must be able to reach each other. And each pod is aware of its IP address, which means when we do ifconfig or ipAddr in the pod, you will see an IP address, and this is your IP address. So you can tell to another node, another pod, hey, I'm 10.3.5. whatever, and then that other thing will be able to connect to you on that IP address. And then everything is up to the implementers. So that's the good thing, is that it's simple. Like everything can reach everything. There is no NAT, no port translation. We don't need to invent new protocols. That's great. You can like you can move pods around, and the spec is like wide enough so that you can implement that with tons of different things. Oh, we could have like subnets on each node, or we could use like routing daemons, or we could do like whatever. However, it's not extremely secure. Like all the pods can ping each other. So if you want security, you need to add another layer, which will be network policies. And it means that the network implementation that you picked needs to support that. There are many network implementations out there. Just in the Kube documentation, I counted 15 different network plugins. And also, it looks like you have a level 3 network, because you're like, oh, maybe like you noted that in the slides before, I didn't say everybody can ping each other. And if I said so, that was a mistake, because really the pods cannot always ping each other. They can connect to each other. If you say, hey, this pod is running something on port 80, and then you will be able to connect to that port, to port 80. But the implementation doesn't mandate that there is a real layer 3 network. If you don't understand what that means, it's okay. That's not critical to the rest of the thing. But if you're a network person and you want to dive into things, that might be useful information. There is also another thing, that is that Kube proxy is on either the data path or the control path for all the internal traffic in the cluster. So when I have a pod connecting to another pod, it's not connecting directly. It's going to connect to a virtual IP. So the traffic is intercepted by an IP table rules, and then that gets routed to the final destination. That's not a big deal, honestly, because in practice, most of the applications that we will run will not even notice that a single bit. But if you are doing some really high traffic applications, and I define high traffic here, then you will have to think about that and tweak a few things. In the VMs that you have here, I used Weave just because it works. I just picked like one arbitrarily because it would work, but it's not a particular endorsement or anything.